Okay, let's continue where we left off in creating a user. So now if I go to our browser, refresh, and here we are getting all the checkboxes, checkbox in company, also checkbox in role. So we need to change. So when we select our manager, so the all the checkbox, the input type field type text become checkbox, and it is default that we have set. So need to change it when we select our to its user role user. So this checkbox is will convert to a radio box, and now we will do the AJAX creatable AJAX function, and we'll send create a AJAX to change the Jquery to change the radio to checkbox and so on. Okay, in a text create .blade.php of user. So where we are accessing the role here. So role, and here we will create a on change, which is an event. On change, we will create a accessibilities functions, accessibility functions, and here we will say dollar this get the value of this selected. So value. So on change get this function accessibilities, and this accessibility function, this is the selected field of role where this is the selected, and this reference is going to this make this reference, and its value is option. In an option we have a value. So when we call this function, so it will get the value which one yet you have selected. So it will get the value of this option. This is the role name. If it is an admin, then the role ID 1. If the role admin is a manager, then the ID is 2. So this will, there we are getting the ID of this option of selected roles. So in a Jquery, where we have section, let's create a new section. Remember, we have a individual script for each file. So section will be script, and we will end that section. So in this section, let me increase this size. So we will create a function. Sorry, before creating a function, we need to create a script. And in this script, a function is accessibilities, and in accessibilities we have a role ID. Remember, if I name it to role, so we are accessing here on change the ID of this role. So which one is the role? So this role, so when it is the case, and let's create, now we will check the role. If it is the role 1, if it is the role 2, and it is if role is 3. Remember, role 1 is admin, role 2 is manager, and role 3 is the user. So if role reference to this row, if role is equal to 1, or role is equal to empty string. If there is no role, or if there is a role, so do this code. So we say dollar we will get our ID dollar string, and we say ID is accessibilities, and we are referring this ID accessibility. So when we select our role, so the accessibility get this ID, and when you get this ID accessibilities, so add an attribute which type is, so we will adding an attribute to our DOM element. Okay, so we will give the type, and then the attribute we are going to adding checkbox. Okay, and when you add, so then dollar ID accessibilities, so this ID show it, so we use a show function to show it and close this statement. Okay, let's check if there is no error of getting this function. When we call this function, it will call this function and set it. Okay, refresh and then choose role. When the role is admin, so it is changed. Okay, so you will see when we create for our others. Okay, copy this, and now if the role is 2, and this time we will not using any string. If role is 2, then the class categories in a class categories dot add attribute type, which is a checkbox, and accessibility dot show the accessibility. So in a class category, where is the, we have not added a class category to our input. Name access company ID. Let's here after this one name, we'll add a class categories. So save it. Now we will access this categories ID. If role is 1, then if role is 2, so get the class categories and add the attribute checkbox and accessibility to show. Because we have having a default role, so and let me change it to display none accessibilities IDs accessibility, and the style display none. So by default it will not display on our page. So now we have we have removed this by default on our page. So when we select our function, so it will should check it. Okay, it's not getting the function. Save it. Let's inspect the element. Uncover type error. attribute is not function. Add accessibility. Add create. So there is something, there is mistake, I think. Checkbox, uncode type error. Okay, let's fix this issue. Dot add dot uncode. Attribute. Attribute, add attribute type error. So save it. Okay, refresh. And let's close this one. Now select role. So see, we are getting. Okay, again refresh. So when the role is manager, you see we are displaying the companies and their department. Okay, let's create the third one. Copy it. And if the role is 3, so categories. Now we will change the attribute of checkbox to radio when the role is user, and accessibility show. Save it, refresh, and let's choose our role user. So it's not changing. Let's refresh. And dot show. Where is the role? Select role ID name. We are not getting the ID that we are accessing. So I think we are making mistake here. So it should be in a select. So we are selecting this, we are referring this to this select, and we are getting the ID of this select, which is an option role ID. Okay, save it. Let's check. Let's choose control admin. See, we have an value. Okay, when I choose to manager, so we are getting the okay. Okay, now if I choose to now user, so see the check field become the radio. It's my mistake, sorry. I have put the function in a wrong div. So when it's manager, it will be checkbox, and when it is admin, it is our default, which is checkbox. And when you choose a user, so the checkbox will be removed to radio. So because we want to a user only one department, and I have created two departments in an font tag to check the usability of this code. So stay tuned, and in the next video we will put the request to our controller. Stay tuned.